All right. Good morning, April.
There. Good morning. I was here an hour ago. It's like I should read my.
Let's see. Oh, there we go.
There you are.
You talk?
I'm talking. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm not hearing you. So
You're
I'm
not
doing
hearing
something
me.
wrong.
Oh no. I'm unmuted.
If I disconnect this. Do you hear me now?
I can hear
You can
you.
hear me, but I can't hear you.
I can't see you.
Okay.
I can't. Wait a minute. I can't chat.
There remains somebody else. I'll figure this out.
I know. You're an engineer. There's no way. Huh. Oh.
Got it. I can hear you now.
I'm not saying anything. No, I can't see you. Is your video not on?
Let's see. It was on. Let's see here. Start video. There we go.
Oh my God. Is there ice on the lake?
There is ice in the middle of the lake. The first 10 feet around the perimeter is unfrozen, and the coves are unfrozen. So,
That 60-degree day a number of weeks ago, I sat on the beach watching this guy walk across the lake thinking, I don't have cell service. I was so scared for him.
yeah,
But he made it.
yeah. Actually, I keep a ladder down by the waterfront and some throw ropes, just in case I see somebody. Because I've fallen through the ice before,
Oh,
2 years ago, and so I have a fine appreciation for it now.
I have to do it once. Along the edges, you're just going to get uncomfortable, but in the middle, you're going to drown.
Yep, that's I was fortunate enough not to.
It would be sad.
Deserve it.
So another few weeks to get the kayak in the water.
Probably at the end of this week. If it's 60 degrees every day, this might be gone next week.
My sailing club was closed last year, and we're going to open up. So I'm going to take the cover off the boat today and see what's under there.
Okay, see who's up there.
Yes.
Little friends who crawled in looking for a place for the winter time.
Yes. I hope. Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
So I see John's on here and he's muted. But good morning, John.
I don't see him. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Good morning. Yeah, I'm ready for spring. The skiing was unbelievably beautiful for a couple of weeks.
So
Out back.
Cross country skiing.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do any skiing at all this year, and downhill. It's just kind of laying low.
Yeah. Are you vaccinated yet?
No, but I have an appointment now for in 2 weeks at UMass.
Hasn't it been that process was horrible.
Are you vaccinated?
I've got one. I'm getting the second one next week.
Okay, good, excellent.
Yeah, the family's my kids are vaccinated because they work in human services. So we might actually see each other.
Good. My son was vaccinated, but because he works in healthcare, but he's in the Grand Canyon right now, rafting.
Oh, poor kid.
No, he loves this stuff. He's got 20 days in the Grand Canyon.
Oh, that sounds so awesome.
Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning.
There I am. I was muted again.
Do you guys run these Zoom meetings though?
I'm sorry?
Have you guys ran or hosted any Zoom meetings?
No, not really.
So I thought we had to log in, and I'm not logged in, but I must be, but I thought I had to use a user ID and password to get in.
No, I guess not, because on our Board of Health meetings, the host doesn't log in.
Okay.
It looks like there's no cases in town right now. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, indeed. Yeah, our caseload has been really low. It's been good.
Yeah. Yep.
Of course, that's confirmed cases. I mean, we know there were cases last year that just weren't getting tested, and so they weren't confirmed and they didn't come to us.
Yep.
Just anecdotally, we hear from people that they had it.
Well, I hope
Are you
we're all ready.
vaccinated?
One shot.
Yeah, me too.
Was it hell for you to get? I had the most 5-year-old temper tantrum at one point where I totally lost it.
Oh yeah, it's a horrible system. It's so frustrating and annoying. And the only reason I managed to get a shot was I got a tip. I got an insider tip from somebody who was a volunteer that said they're going to release some appointments at a certain time in like 5 minutes, and I managed to get a shot that way.
Okay, so we're being recorded, so John's on here also, John. So I think we have a quorum. And so I guess the first item on the agenda is just to approve the minutes from the December 5th meeting, our last meeting. This one here is our first meeting of the year.
So why don't I move to approve them?
I second.
Good, thank you.
I was not there. That was the 4-town meeting happened at the same time.
Yeah, no, John was there, Catherine, me, and Walter. John, are you okay with it?
We can't hear you, John.
When you have a chance, unmute yourself, John. I don't think I can unmute you.
I thought you could do that as the host.
Yeah, I can. It says here I can ask to unmute.
No.
Oh, there.
Oops, didn't mean to do that.
Okay. Oh, there we go. There's John. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Celeste.
Okay. Good to see you. You have to unmute. Oh, you have to unmute yourself?
Yeah. So it might be in the lower right-hand corner. There it is.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Hello.
Hi, John.
Hi, Kat.
So, John,
Had my first shot.
Yay.
We're getting there.
Getting there.
all right. So, John, you okay with the minute system as a normal flush?
Yep. Yes.
Good. Do we have unanimous approval? The second thing on the agenda is, well, first, I want to give special thanks to Catherine for writing up the annual report, our annual report. and much appreciated.
Well, you're welcome. I found some of our old minutes in which we were basically complaining about giving advice that nobody ever wants, and we had a bunch of things on the docket that we voted in favor of and that aren't moving forward in the town. So I thought it might be best to get those out in the public eye.
Yes.
And again, thank you very much, Catherine.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. On that same line of getting things on the public eye, let's skip to item 4 on the agenda, which is regarding our request to form a townwide stormwater
Yes.
management runoff committee.
Yes, this has been frustrating. The select board, we've met and we've talked about it. And the consensus is that we really, the town cannot help with private roads. And what I have requested is that a letter be, the letter response be made by our town council. She's saying that legally the town cannot assist in maintaining private roads. That's really what it comes down to. And I know it's taken all winter to get that response, and that is embarrassing, but that's the truth. And at this point, there doesn't seem to be a need for the other dirt roads. You know, they're muddling along. And there is not a strong sense that we need to form a road committee at this time. And I had nudged Donna a number of times this week just to say, could you please put this in writing for this meeting? And I have not heard back from her.
Well, we believe you, but are we asking for assistance in maintaining the roads, or are we just asking for study? For study of how certain conditions are affecting a town resource.
Right. Right. And my sense is that a study, I mean, it all would link together, that this really needs to be done by the homeowners around the lake. You know, that this is how it's done around other private roads. So this is clearly the largest and most extensive road network in town, you know, that's privately run. So I think that the town really does not, and it's I'm certainly mixed on this, but I think that there's a legal line where we just feel like we cannot get involved with taking care of private roads.
I thought from when we were talking, having this discussion with regard to the big, I forgot what it was called, study that we had an outside consultant come in and for the emergency for storm preparedness. What was that called? Resiliency.
It's the MVP.
Yeah.
And there is a webinar coming up being sponsored by them to help with the next step. And I don't have the date on that.
But they said that there have been cases where the funding was provided for private roads. And not necessarily from the town, maybe it was from state funding.
Right. No, I wonder, because Michael D. Care from the planning board is planning on attending the sort of the next step. He was the one who wrote that, helped spearhead that original grant through MVP. Mm-hmm. I wonder if, let me get in touch with him and find out when that is, and perhaps we could attend that.
Is that something that you're asking me to do, or something you said you?
No, that's something I could do.
Okay. Yes, there's I think be worthwhile. And I think the people, the group here has advocated just looking more into it. I mean, I know we always hear that the town can't provide resources, do anything.
Right.
But, there certainly is water coming off the town roads that are going over the private roads that are getting into the town resource.
Right.
And there's got to be some, grant money, something, whether it's if the 319 grant, something. I think we need a group to look to who's got expertise in this area to investigate, a number of options to look at protecting the lake. Now the select board had this discussion, but was that posted on the minutes, or did you guys just talk about it in private?
Yes. No. It's recorded, and I'm trying to think back. It was probably in December of 20. I'm right now reviewing all of our minutes for the last fiscal year.
I was looking at the agendas. I never saw it come up on the agenda.
Okay, it may have come up. Let me think. Where is it? It's 20. I happen to have all the minutes open. And then the solar sort of has come into being.
Yeah, I know you guys have been busy with that. I completely understand.
I think, yes, that, I'm trying to see where, okay, this is in 12. Okay, so this is in 12:20, the minutes of 12:22. It was an informal discussion that Tories appreciate Stein's concern about the health of the lake. However, these are private roads and the town has no legal standing to work on these roads as proposed by the LWAC. And the plan was for Becky to request town council to review the proposal, consider statute and providing guidance. And that did not happen. And that is also referred to the municipal vulnerability preparedness proposal, that it was part of that as well. So I've been urging, so when did I've emailed about this a number of times, because I want clarification too. I understand the town there's limits to what the town can do, and what happens on private land, as we're looking at, the solar project, certainly impact the greater good of everyone. But that was discussed at a 12:22, and there has been nothing. So
it would be nice to have allocate a little bit of time when the select board.
yeah, I think this came up. It was one of those things that comes up.
So we're all
at the end of the meeting. Exactly. Well, okay.
I still feel that they're not, that Donna's response is not appropriate to the request. The request is not for assistance with maintenance. It's not asking the town to bring out a big yellow machine. It's asking for a study group.
Yeah.
And that is not maintenance.
So what is the best course of action? Would be, I can certainly contact Michael Bucare about when the MVP grant, that next, what do you call it? It's like how to write the grant webinar.
Oh, yeah.
That's coming up. And I will write again to Donna and say, could you, I know I know she's busy, but this really, it should not be a long complicated response.
You know, I'm hoping that, oh, this is, Terry's joined the meeting here, sorry. I just didn't, yeah. You know, the real question in my mind is the town the only avenue of a resource?
Right.
And you know, what we're saying is, if the answer is yes, that doesn't make sense to me, because if the association chooses not to do anything with the roads, the lake can become totally silted, and the resource for the town and the state becomes unusable. You know,
Right.
we took it to the extreme. And it doesn't make sense that there's no avenue to protect that.
It seems like we're setting up a possibility for somebody to sue somebody else, for either for the Lake Wyola Association to sue the town for letting runoff come through their properties and into the lake, or for the town to sue the Lake Wyola Association for failing to stop the erosion into the lake. We don't want that, my God.
No. Well, I'm also, you know, the association is, maybe like these are, is everybody mandated to pay into the association? I mean, what that part is,
That would
like
help.
That would help, yes. I mean, like my niece lives on a private road, and everybody contributes X number of dollars per year for the road. And it doesn't seem like that kind of mechanism has ever been established for the lake. And
No.
you know, that would certainly help, I think, as well. Like if people were, you know, it wouldn't be crazy for people to have to contribute, say, $500 a year towards road maintenance, you know, to the lake, or some number. And that seems like that it's a totally voluntary. You don't have to join the lake association. And when road work is done, who pays for it?
Well, when road work is done right now, it's paid for by the association, which is the members of the association is essentially a volunteer group, or a volunteer to join. There's no requirement, there's no deed, it's not in the deed that you have to be a member of the association. Judge, you know, the historical, does anyone familiar with sort of the history of this? Why it's always voluntary, or why, and I don't think it can be changed at this point.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because I think that there's like, this is a confluence of two problems: of the town, where's the town's responsibility, and how can we form a partnership? And it seems like, on the other hand, there's few people at the lake. There's a small people at the lake who are actually helping, who are responding to the need financially. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, the Lake Association's got 130 something members, and pretty much for the past, since Ivy and I have been up there since 2008, the association's budgeted pretty consistently about $6,000 to $8,000, which is the equivalent of the dues of nearly 100 of its members just for road work.
And so, okay. And then there's fundraisers that help in addition to that.
But there's not a lot of major fundraisers when you consider the property taxes that we pay on the Lake Association beaches, on the town, on the association building, the insurances that go along with that.
Yeah.
And the association is set up as a nonprofit organization.
Right.
This is always an issue at town. I mean, my experience, I work around probably about, you know, through the years, and 25 years, worked around lakes around all around the Commonwealth, and it's a pretty common factor. If the town's that concerned about the runoff that's coming off the association roads, I'd look right uphill at the town's roads that are above that surround the lake, and would say that the properties that are up gradient in elevation around the lake contribute a huge amount of water to the amount of water that the association roads and have to be handled. I mean, the water runs downhill, and a lot of the problems that are on Great Pines Road are a contribution coming off of the town's road. So it needs to be a partnership. And that's why I suggested last year that instead of people that were association members, always, trying to put the burden on the association, we're doing the best that we can to address what we have, and that creating a broader spectrum of of an association and town partnership to address runoff conditions and stormwater all around town, because the new stormwater guidelines that are coming out and everything, there's mandates by the state that the towns have to address. Belchertown has now huge fees that go along with stormwater management, and those are regulations that are mandated by the state now and it's, so it needs to be a partnership. But I mean, people talking about suing people and is crazy. And the other thing too is that over the years around the lake, it's become more and more year-round development, and people that move near there who are association members need to understand that they're not moving to a road that is going to be able to be heavily maintained, because the way it's deeded in all our deeds and the way the association's makeup is.
There's no way to re-examine deeds. That's a done deal. I mean, it seems like there's two things. It's like the town, and that's where I've been trying to get some answers from Donna relative to what is our, what can and can't the town do? There's that, but on the other hand is, and I'm sure this has been a lifelong, how do you have people who volunteer? Right now it's voluntary, whether or not you join the association, but it impacts everybody at the lake. That problem.
Right, but that's not our problem to solve, April.
No, it's not. But
No,
it's
but
Right, but our problem to solve, I think, is, if we can come back to this, is to try to establish this town and association partnership that Terry is talking about. And what I suggest we might start by doing is responding to your unofficial, since we don't have a written response to our letter that we sent asking for a committee to be formed, and specifically addressing the things that Donna is saying. One, Donna's missing the point. We're not asking the town to do maintenance. We're asking the town to convene a committee that will study the situation that is taking place at the intersection of association and town property, and creating problems for a town resource. Maybe we need to be more clear about that. I don't think Donna seriously read our letter, because she's not responding to it in a way that on its terms. So how about we do another letter saying, this is what we're looking for. We've got a problem that is a responsibility both of the town and the association. We want to study it. We've mentioned, and we can bring this out more in another letter, we specifically mentioned we want somebody on the committee who has grant writing experience, because we're looking for grant money to do this work. We're not looking for town money.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's clear.
And if the town, I mean, this has been kicked around, and if the town and the association establishes that partnership, it makes a good basis to go to the Franklin Regional Council of Governments and be able to initiate that grant process, and they themselves not necessarily, might be able to help with that if there's support from both sides to do it. That's how other lakes in Massachusetts get the things that they get for stormwater improvements and stuff, whether it's private land or whether it's public land is ultimately the water's running downhill, and it through a partnership, you know, you have success, just like the dam repairs and things in the past, where the town working with the association, it's going to benefit both parties and everyone in general. There's a number of programs out there, but it's going to need the support of the regional council of governments.
I should know this, but does the Lake Association have a roads committee yet?
Yes, the current roads committee is the board of directors.
Okay.
They've done away with, or at least for now, they've done away with having, you know, like a subcommittee of the board.
Yeah.
And so right now, the current roads committee is the board of directors.
Can you let me know when that had happened? Because I actually was just dealing with some road issues over here on Shore Drive, and there's been policies written up and how the committee gets elected, and my Shore Drive director just resigned. And that's kind of one of the issues I have over here around the lake, and talking to a lot of homeowners around here, is that there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of good, hard work. And the policies that have been written up aren't really being followed. And I think that it's a great idea to get a study to figure out what really needs to be done, because I think that's the big issue, is that we all know there's work that needs to be done. The association has a good amount of money put away as a 501(c), and I see it to be able to do good work for the lake, but they don't really have a plan. And I would wonder why it's now thought that the board's running it, when I had just read a thing that got okayed by the board last year, voted on, about the roads committee, and each side of the lake has supposed to have one. But there's been a lot of issues with that getting followed. So like on our road, the director just stepped down because of the suggestions not being listened to. So I think that's the issue I have here, is that the broader picture of this is a bigger issue for the town and the state. And it really is not the association's full issue, because they don't have adequate knowledge of how to deal with it. Plus, they don't have the equipment to deal with it. And, being a volunteer donation, or really, it doesn't add up, but there is excess money at times that then does go into these funds to do work. And I see the lake filling up with the silt, and that being the roads kind of being a cause of that. So that's kind of why I'm part of this direction, and I just want to I want to figure out more about it. But as I look into it more and talk to other people around the lake, they don't know what's really actually going on. And so that's my concern about joining the Lake Wyola Association, and why I looked it towards Lake Wyola Advisory Committee, because I think it's a bigger issue than the association could deal with.
Well, the amount of, Josh, Terry Smith, I was a member, kind of like advisory on the roads committee for about the past, until the past I would say until about 2 years ago, when, when there was a lot of changes and flux in the committee. And, and I'll say over on Shore Drive, we did work there in about 2014. Went back there about 3 years ago. The most amount of money since I've been a resident on the lake has been spent on Shore Drive.
And that's a question, why?
In terms of the grading and the drainage swales and everything. And, I volunteered as engineer over there. I was involved in a lot of the grading work that was done in the reprofiling. People won't even keep their pipes clean so that the water drains out and the ditches are done. And, I guess I take it a little bit personally, because the amount of effort that went in by the roads committee for a number of years. You know, we'd be out there on Mother's Day weekend for the whole weekend as everyone else is sitting up there drinking beer on their deck watching them. And, so it's a little frustrating that that road keeps coming back and that people on that road, there's probably a handful of, there's a good number of year-round residents over there. But again, when people move to a road and it's gravel, it's not like a paved road. And the association's budget, they just went up on the dues. People aren't obligated to pay. It's been fairly consistent that the dues are about 125 to 130 people at $100 a year. For a long period of time, they just went up to 150, I believe. So that revenue plus the revenues, it's just not sustainable with a $6,000 to $8,000 budget for what everyone is demanding that the Lake Association do. And without having a partnership, without seeking whatever available funds are from this, that might be available, it's just not feasible to address really what needs to be done. And it's not just that road, it's, I think that, Lake Drive is, nearly a mile long. Great Pines, I did a cost estimate last year for Great Pines in a couple side streets. And if you wanted to address it the way it needs to be addressed, it was almost $30,000. And those are roads that haven't even been touched.
Let's, it's a good discussion, but let's get back to the agenda items here, which is the discussion on forming a townwide committee to look into this.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's different parts of it. It's like, it seems like there's some pretty significant work that the Lake Association, I don't know how you change the direction of the river that has been flowing for so many years, where it's voluntary, it's $100 a year, which is, there's that part. And how do we have a way to partner so that it's not costing the town a lot? The town isn't responsible, how do you do that? And I think what Catherine was saying is, I think you were coming up with some really clear ideas about, let's rewrite this, another letter. But it is complicated, And
I agree with you, April. It's like I know someone seems to be of the opinion that the town can't do anything, and I keep hearing this. And it seems to be from one or two people only, that the town can't do this, the town can't do this, and it's going to be a little unsatisfying if the response from the town lawyer, unless it's really a response that explains why nobody can do it. And it's not the we're not asking the town. We're asking to figure out if there is an option, if there is a solution.
Yep.
And that's what we're really asking for as a committee.
No, that makes sense. And on the other hand, it seems like the association has work that I don't know. I cannot imagine how you would tackle that. And you're dealing with things that are written into deeds, and it must be very frustrating to know how little money people are contributing to take care of the lake.
Steve, if I could ask a question, but going back to this, this is going to be an overall problem for the town, not just Lake Wyola, but as the stormwater mandates move forward and stuff, the town's going to need. How many miles of gravel roads do you have all throughout Shutesbury where there's stream crossings?
I think we have 16
Wendell
miles.
Road is a direct contributor to and has major stream crossings that go to Lake Wyola, but no one seems to be concerned with that. And that has nothing to do with the association.
Right.
And if I drive down there, there's piles of gravel in those brooks, just like there is in any of the ditches and drainage swales along any of the roads that we've maintained for the past you know, 6 or 8 years. And if I drove down Montague Road, you see the same thing. So this is like a future, it's a necessary future planning that needs to be done on the town's part.
But I
And
think,
Lake Wyola is only a little portion of the gravel roads that exist in the town of Shutesbury.
I think we have 16 miles, I believe, of dirt, of gravel road.
So around Lake Wyola, there's about I think about 2.5.
Yeah, and Montague Road is 4 miles to the town. And there's Sand Hill, Baker. I think that's it. But let's, I think Mark was right. Let's try to stay focused, but I think let's try putting it in writing. And I would like to see Donna's response, because I'm not a lawyer. I have a lot of respect for her, and, you know, get some clarity.
And so you're suggesting we wait for Donna's response and then respond to that?
How about a nudge first?
Yeah. Well, let's not wait. Let's start drafting a letter, because we know what Donna said. We don't have a written response, but we know what she said, and we know what her point is, and we have a problem with it. I think we should start drafting a response right away. And at the same time, April, if you could try to get, however brief, a written response from her.
Yes.
And I would like to really get on the agenda.
No, we don't want it, so no, we don't want it.
Yes.
Yes, because it's, you know, so that people in this committee could have that, they could hear the discussion at the select board.
Okay.
And provide input. I mean, I was kind of disappointed that we weren't, that it wasn't on the agenda formally, at least I missed it if it is. It was.
No, it was an informal discussion. Well, it was a public discussion, but it was something that had not been, it was discussed right after the letter was received. And it's a shame that a response hasn't happened yet.
All right, so what's the plans we're going to do? So what's for the minutes here? What's our plan right now?
How about our plan is, I'm going to draft a follow-up letter to the select board, and I will send it to you for distribution among our our committee members.
Okay, great. That'd be excellent. Is it worthwhile at this point to push to get on the agenda to the select board, or wait a bit?
I think it'd be appreciated if there was some way. We're pretty jammed up at the moment.
That's fair.
Should we set a deadline for when we would be on the agenda? Like, let the town get through its fiscal budgeting process, and maybe by no later than like the end of June or something, so that this doesn't get pushed off again through this season when folks are not around the lake.
Town meeting is April, that's me, June 12th. That is town meeting this year.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody wants to rent a tent for a wedding, there'll be a tent on the tent available on Sunday after.
Yeah, it's you know, I guess I'm still a little disappointed that we're going to go, you know, not until end of June, or until we move on this.
Yeah, but I'm thinking what we've got right now, there's a lot, you know, the solar stuff is taking, I know that it's mainly a problem with the planning board, but there's some memo of understanding that has to be developed, and that's taking a lot of focus.
Yeah, no, I understand. I appreciate that. I guess we can wait.
Well, let's just keep pushing and maybe not put a date on it, but just keep making the point that we want some attention here.
Yes.
Because basically everything that we want to talk to the select board about, it's getting pushed aside. We've been talking about this boat ramp thing for years, and we can't get a hearing on that. You know, I mean, I've been in this position before where you're on a so-called advisory committee. Nobody wants your advice and nobody will listen to it. And if you manage to give it, they don't take it. Right? How do you spell burnout? You know?
Okay. I think that was good discussion, and Catherine, it'd be great if you could start I'll work with you on that. If you can get a draft going, and
Okay, you and I can work on it. When we get something we like, you can circulate it around to the others.
okay, very good. All right, good discussion. Let's go back up to another agenda item, and it's item 3 here, which is just sort of a brainstorming items we should be working on for this year. I can't even think of anything unusual besides the roads that we need to kind of address. Last year we did that was out of the norm. We did approve funding for this year for to do E. coli testing around the beaches if one of the beaches tests high. We approved some trash containers and stuff for Elliott Park. Anything else that the group here can think of that we want to look into?
Do we need to be involved at all, Mark, or everyone else on the committee? Do we have to be involved in terms of the culvert replacement on Locks Pond Road? And, as I guess a liaison again between the town and the association for, coordination and the impacts that's going to have on Lake Association members and residents.
I'm trying to remember when that came up last, because at this point, I believe it's approved to start. There's going to be about 3 weeks of hell, I believe, in August, September. That's what I understand, and that the engineers who are doing the project have, where is that? They've come up with the detour route, because the culvert clearly will be unavailable. So some of it goes through. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be coming up through Leverett Road. I can't remember. Let me find that.
I saw some of the background. It was the last go around. It was discussed. It was 3-week closing of the road.
Yeah.
The routes around were already planned out. One for trucks and one for cars.
That's right.
But I guess my question is, does anyone know who in the town other than Walter would have could kind of give us an update? And we certainly want to have an update by someone in a position to talk at the association meeting, which would be coming up in, was it July, June? Does anyone know when our first association meeting is?
Isn't it usually in June, the first one?
Yes.
Yeah, June.
So it'd be. So does anyone know who could either talk for our next LWAC meeting? And give us
Maybe somebody from the police department, because they would be involved in setting up the detours.
Yeah.
Or I'm thinking maybe the DPW or the highway.
Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, you were at that. There was a presentation from the people who were going to be doing the.
Yeah, that was about 6 months ago.
Yes, it's coming back, and they had a slideshow that showed. So that would be helpful to see that. I'm not sure if it would be the police or the fire or even the highway department.
If we have that slideshow, anybody could really present it.
Exactly.
What is the status of the bidding of that? Like in terms of?
I think we're set to go. As far as I if I'm remembering it, we're set to go the end of, we've got the engineer, we've got everything set. The easements have been, there were a couple of small easements that had to be
Sure.
arranged. Um,
But we have the installers and stuff online.
Yeah.
It's not like it's still out to bid.
No, so that, my remembrance is that this is gonna start September, August, September.
Well, you don't have a contractor. The job hasn't been awarded
I
yet.
think it has been. You know, I think we're further down the line, but I want to make sure that that's fact.
And one of the reasons why I bring it up for that is I know that there was some stuff that was related to the dam maintenance that was
Yes.
kind of factored into that project as well.
Yes.
Right, dam repairs.
Yes, and having to change the outflow area, and that's where some easements from abutters had to be made and arranged for, and those have gone through.
Yeah, I think there was like wasn't there something to do, Mark, with I think like the
valve on the dam needs to be repaired, or
the valve on the dam, and then wasn't there for the seepage wells or
yeah,
something?
the weir,
Yeah.
seepage monitor needs to be relocated. There's like a few things, and some of the stones below the dam need to be moved.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think Walter is probably the best source of information on that.
You're probably right.
And you're working with the Morris route to define. I think they've already defined what needs to be done, and I'm not sure if anyone's worked on a notice of intent yet with the Conservation Commission. They were supposed to do it both at the same time. So the question is who's in a position to kind of give an overview of where things are, not just the roads, but just kind of a general overview of the project.
Yeah.
Becky?
Yeah, she would be.
Should I invite Becky to our next LWAC meeting, or is that?
Why don't I shoot her an email and just
Okay.
say, where are we?
Yes, it's the people around the lake are going to be people around town are going to be asking, and it's we're
It's
just
going to be interesting.
yeah, and so it'd be just the more we communicate to residents, the happier everyone will be.
Yes.
So April, I'll put it for the minutes that you're going to contact Becky to see about an overview presentation.
Yeah, she would have those slides, I think, somewhere.
And has the other, just the two things that that was one, the road, and the other one that it's always been kind of an ongoing thing is the planning. How was the town's communication with the state park and parking situations and the activities that went on last year at the beach?
Right, that was a complicated year that I hope we don't have to revisit. You know, I know that the Lefford and Shutesbury police coordinated daily on site, or pretty much daily on site. You know, it was pretty horrible. You know, we didn't have enough lifeguards. People were parking everywhere. The dam was overrun. We had a meeting where we were trying to decide, do we ban people from sitting on the dam at all? You know, and at that point decided to sort of put that, it was at the end, towards the end of the season, and decided, let's just not do that yet, because that people fish there. But it was becoming like the overflow from the state park was, I'm sure you know better than I do, it was all over.
Yeah, it
was all over the place.
Yeah, the beaches, anything that was open last year for that. But should the town be asking right now the DCR as to what their plan is for lifeguard and staffing of the beach for this upcoming season?
Yes, they should be. And that's something I know as the pandemic was unfolding last year, that was happening or about to happen with the town administrator and the chief of police, and Walter meeting with the DCR. And then,
Because the reason why I bring that up is you don't want the season of the pandemic where there was no lifeguards to set the precedence that we can operate a beach without lifeguards.
absolutely.
Because I was told directly by the park supervisor there that his opinion is he would just like to see there be no lifeguards and just people swim at their own risk.
No.
So that's
Well, that's,
not a good idea.
no, not at all a good idea.
So the town should really kind of
Well, it's like last year,
get on this now before the end of May comes.
I think the DCR's response was, well, it's sort of open, but not really open, and we don't really have enough staff. So it was a shit show.
It may take a little bit of a push to your representative and senator to make sure that they staff it with lifeguards because of things opening up. And there's been always a big emphasis by the administration, for people to get outdoors, use the state parks, use the beaches, use the boat access all through this. But they've pulled the lifeguards out of the equations. And
Terry, my understanding was not that they pulled the lifeguards out of the equation, but they couldn't get lifeguards. They were trying to hire lifeguards. That's what I was told by what's his name at the park, Steve.
yeah, well, he's also the one that told me firsthand that he would like to see it not have lifeguards. So
Right, but I don't think that's his
That's
choice,
right.
and that's a decision that's made well over his head. But he also told me that they couldn't get lifeguards.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's because they don't pay them enough or what.
Well, I think that they had 3 or 4 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And, that is an issue, but DCR does offer, the lifeguard training and stuff, and it's good jobs for kids in town.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me of something else that he said. Here's the reason they couldn't get the lifeguards, because they couldn't take the training
Yes,
because of the pandemic.
yes,
Oh.
because of the pools, but so they couldn't get them because the pools were closed. I know that was an issue for
Right,
for law enforcement people and stuff.
right. So possibly this year there will be lifeguards available.
Yeah, and
They'll have to meet the requirements for that. I mean, Steve might want to eliminate them all, but he can't.
yes, he may not want to have them ever come back.
Yeah, well, too bad for him, because I
Yeah.
mean, it's not his call.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up, because the gentleman that does the lifeguard training for DCR, I believe he's involved at Deerfield Academy. I think he's the person that in the area that does the training.
Mm.
And anyways, but those programs, they've opened up at least for some law enforcement personnel that needed that training. So hopefully DCR will continue to encourage local kids to get the training.
That'd be
I mean,
good.
they're good paying job. I mean, they make $16 and $17 an hour. So
That's decent.
Gary, would it be possible for you to contact that person and see if there's going to be training, and then maybe we can get the word out to people in town? Because for kids to take the class.
yeah, I can find out the individual's name and pass that along and see what look into it a little bit and report back at the next meeting.
Yeah, at this point, things are changing so rapidly with the reopening phases that it could have changed a lot between now and next meeting. We can hope.
Okay. So that'd be great. It'd be in a perfect world, they'd have the training and we'd let people in town know about the training so kids could get summer jobs right in shoots.
That'd be great.
So they'd have resources and everybody would be a win-win for
And
everybody.
one of the things that's kind of just, you know, an FYI to the town's purpose is because of where the lifeguards are not under Steve's supervision. There's a lifeguard supervisor who is from Lake Wyola's odd in the sense of DCR's region, and it's at the very, very west of the Worcester region, believe it or not, who actually where the lifeguard supervisor who is responsible for them is located. So that individual is not a full-time person over at the park, kind of checks in with the lifeguards, you know, throughout the week and stuff. But Steve's responsible for the park staff, but not the lifeguards.
Mhm.
My understanding. So it makes it difficult when they're trying to find, you know, when the supervisors from, you know, we'll say like out towards, you know, the more north of Worcester, you know, trying to recruit kids to come and work at Lake Wyola. So, I mean, there might be a, you know, some advertising that could be done in the Amherst schools or the, you know, or Deerfield area or wherever, which is more, you know, would be appropriate for them to seek out lifeguards for the Wyola.
Good point.
Okay.
Well, see what you can learn.
I will.
And if you find something out sooner than before the next meeting, we can we may jump on it. It's fine with the schedule.
Sure,
See what's going on.
I'll find out the individual's name, you know, kind of what I can find out what kind of the status is of training, and I'll send you a email, Mark.
Okay,
As soon as
great.
I can find out.
That'd be great. Anything else that we can think of here that we want to look at? Okay. Just as a side note, Catherine signed off as the rep on the Board of Health for the goose egg addling permit, which I sent off to H. Hussman to issue our addling permit for the year. So that hopefully will go through smoothly, and it'll be sent to the town, and you guys let me know about it when it comes in, and we can start that process.
When you sent that, Mark, did you send it to H? Was that sent by snail mail or by email?
I emailed to H.
Okay.
But I find that with the application, it seems to work okay with email, but for the report, it has to be sent by snail mail. The end of the year report that I put together. It's always got to be sent by snail mail. Otherwise, H doesn't seem to have it all the time.
Okay.
Anything else that we want to talk about today?
Let's see.
So what I'll do here is, if there's nothing else, I'll start drafting these minutes, and it's going to be a complicated one to write here. But I'll put something together that reflects our discussion, and some of our main talking points, and hopefully we'll breathe some life into some of these issues again.
Yes.
One of the things that seems frustrating from my point of view is that we, as an advisory committee, we make recommendations, and we hear from local residents about, let's say, the state beach issue, and there's never a closed loop. It's like, okay, something's happened, but we never really know it's happened. And maybe that's something we could work on a little bit better, is trying to close that loop up between what things we push for and and what actually happens to them at the town level.
Yes.
All right. John,
Move to adjourn?
yeah, well, I was just gonna say, John, you all set?
All set.
Josh, you all set?
Yep, all set.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you joining us this morning. And the next meeting will be, we always meet on the third Saturday of the month, so the next one will be on the 17th of April.
Wow.
And we'll continue, is 10 o'clock a better meeting time?
It's better for me because I have a Zoom class at 9.
Okay.
That would work.
Okay, we'll continue to meet at 10 o'clock then.
Okay.
Thank you for accommodating me.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice weekend.
Bye, all.
Bye-bye.
Aye.